Let's go ahead and look at some basic formulas and functions in Excel. So right here in this first yellow tab, we're going to do a basic calculation. We're going to use these two numbers. So we have C3 and C4. So let's do some addition. Let's do equal cell reference C3. And I can type it, or once I write in the operator right here, I can just click on it as well. And I press enter, and that's the magic of Excel. It's automatically going to calculate that value. So let's do the next one. Let's do equals C3 take away C4. You can see it's going to compute that, and I'm going to use the autofill to kind of save some time here, and then just swap out the operator up here in the formula address bar. So you can see we have different operator symbols, or you may be more familiar with just, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and subtraction. And you can see this didn't quite work because it's using relative references, so for now we'll just update it manually by erasing that and typing in that. And you don't have to use cell references. If I wanted to just say what's 50 plus, or let's stick to division, what's 50 divided by 5, and press enter, it would calculate that as well. The cool thing about using the cell references is if you change one of those cell references, well, everything else cascades down and updates. So functions, there's a bunch of built-in ones. One of the most familiar ones people know is the sum, and you just write equal sum, and then you, right here in the parentheses, you just select what cells you want to add together. So you don't necessarily have to do cells that are adjacent, so these are adjacent, but up here I can manually add to the formula if I want to add ones that aren't necessarily touching, and then just press enter. So count, that is a interesting one. That's really going to just say how many cells do I have. So let's see, right here, if I select these cells, press enter, it's going to show only 5, and you may be saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, that's 10 cells. But that's only because this only counts cells with numbers in them. So there is another function, but we're not going to look at it now, to count all cells regardless of what data is within them. And you don't really need to stick to using the formulas because, or rather, you don't have to type them out. You certainly could, and we could do it like that and press enter, but you don't have to. And that's because up here on the ribbon you have these different tabs, and the fourth one in is formulas, and right here under the auto formulas is average. So you can just select that. And what's really cool about these, and they're called auto because they actually guess the range based on the data near it. So this is seeing 4 cells above it that are numeric, so it's going to say, is that what you want to select? And as long as it is, you just commit to it by pressing enter. And you also have other ones. You have median, so you can type that in and select the cells you want to do and press enter. So min, that's going to select the smallest number within a range of cells. So if I do equal min, we would expect 20 to be outputted here. But I'm getting an error, and that's because I didn't actually type in the syntax right. So make sure you do equal the name of the function and then the left parentheses and then whatever cells go within. And max is the opposite. Max is the largest value within a set of cells. So again, this is only going to work for numeric data. Date and time, so if we type equal today, and this is an interesting one because you don't actually need any arguments within the parentheses because it's automatically going to just output today's date. And you could do your birthday, so if we did let's skip that actually, that's a bit overkill. So that is just the date, and there's additional ones up here on the formula address bar right under date and time. So you have tons and tons of functions, and if you don't know what any of them are, well, you actually just hover over them and it's going to tell you briefly what it does. So if I do equal month, it'll kind of give me a brief description. So joining together values, this is some really cool stuff. So you may be familiar with something like Autofill in Excel, and let's combine it with joining values. How do we do that? Super easy. Well, we just type equal, click on the cell that we want to join, and then we're going to do this ampersand symbol, and that's Shift and number 7 on a Windows keyboard. And then we're going to click on the other cell that we want to join and press enter, and boom, there it is. It automatically puts those values together. And you may be saying, okay, but that doesn't look very conventional, and that's true because it's not having that space between the two names. So we can actually program in up here in the formula address bar the literals, and that just means we'll do 2 double quotes, and then within that double quote we're going to program in, hypothetically, let's say we're going to convert this data into emails. So we're going to do a formula like this. And this is definitely a little tricky to do advanced, but basically you either do a cell reference and then an ampersand sign to connect the values, or an ampersand sign and a pair of double quotes, and then whatever's in the double quotes is going to output. So that's really an example, but the cool thing about writing this type of thing is you write it once, and then you can fill it or autofill by hovering in the bottom right corner of the cell you typed in and scrolling down, and you can see it's going to apply that same syntax. So kind of cool, and you can do whatever you want with that, including spaces. A lot of people get confused with literals, but it means literally whatever's in the double quotes. So if I were to just have something like that, so now we have like a first name, last name kind of interface going on. Alright, now we're going to look at if statements. These are definitely a little bit trickier to write than everything we've looked at so far. As always, it starts with if and then the name of the function. And look at this one. It has 3 parameters. Our first parameter is the logic test itself. So let's say if this, let's do a cell. So if C9 is equal to the keyword apple, and then we're going to do what we want it to show on the screen. We'll say this is an apple, and then we'll do what happens on the screen in this cell if it's not an apple. And so let's try that out. So we can see that worked here. Let's autofill it down, and look at that. It's going to say, you know what, that's not an apple. So you can do that with text, and the idea is anything from the the cell, it's going to update. So it's a basic logic test. So if I change that to apple, it'll update there. Now with numbers, it's a little bit trickier. You can see the syntax here in the formula address bar. So let's try it out. Equal if, so we'll say if this cell equals 50, and that's one thing to keep in mind. With pure text, you're going to put the text in double quotes, but when you're doing numbers, not the case. Regardless, for the values, you still have to do the double quote. So we'll say this number is 50, and for the false, we'll say this number is not 50. So that's just one example. And then you can see there I closed it wrong, so let's close it correctly. Okay, so that is showing up okay, and then if I just change it to literally any other number, it's going to say that's not right. And then you can also get this, you can get much more advanced, as you see here in the cell right above. If you wanted, you could do comparison operators, so you can do equal to and greater than, or equal to and less than, tons of different combinations. So that really wraps up this video. If you want access to this exercise file, please go to thedatadreamer.com, and if you just search Excel, or you can type in this URL, or just search Excel right here, it's on the Intro to Excel page. So this video is embedded here, and then you can also download a copy of that file right here from this link into Excel, and you can try out all these on your own end. So that is it. If you have any requests for upcoming Excel tutorials, please feel free to comment on this video on YouTube or on thedatadreamer.com. Thanks for watching.